Thank you all so much for coming out to the Disney Kingdoms panel.
Yeah.
Please introduce yourself briefly for those out here who might not know who you are and how you contributed to Disney Kingdoms.
All right, I'll start here since I have the computer. I'm Josh Shipley. I work at Walt Disney Imagineering, and I'm part of the founding team for Disney Kingdoms.
I'm Andy Genova, also Walt Disney Imagineering, and part of the Disney Kingdoms team there. And we'll get into what that means in just a minute.
My name is Brian Crosby. I was with Imagineering for 10 years, where I helped co-create Disney Kingdoms. I'm now with Marvel, creative director for Themed Entertainment.
I'm Tad Stones. I was at.
I'm Eric Diaz, and I'm the cover artist on Animal Funimation.
I'm still Tad Stones. I was at Disney for 30 years. In TV animation, I created Chip 'n Dale's Rescue Rangers and Darkwing Duck. Prior to that, I was on the team that created Figment and the Imagination Pavilion.
I'm Jim Zev. I'm a comic book writer, and I'm the writer of Figment and Figment 2, along with
We actually have a connection with Amy on a weekly basis. Amy actually helps us with comic books at House of Secrets in Burbank.
Yeah.
You can find, I make videos about comics. I work with a site called Geek Standard, and you can find me on Twitter and Disney, where I have talked about how great comics are. But we are here to talk about how great your comics are. I can't believe it's only been 2 years since Disney Kingdom started. You guys have done so much amazing work so quickly. How long ago was the actual beginning of Disney Kingdoms as a comic book project?
Brian? Oh, sure. Okay. Well, I mean, some of you probably heard the story, but we'll rehash it real quick. So Disney Kingdoms was created a few years ago. Josh Shipley and myself, we were actually at an Angels baseball game with Joe Quesada because we were bonding over baseball. And our secret hidden agenda was to pitch Joe the idea of doing comic books based on Disney theme park attractions. So we pitched him that idea. He liked it. We didn't really hear anything back on it for a long time, and then about 7 months later, I think, Joe reached out to us and said that Marvel was really interested in doing this line of comic books, and that helped us launch Seekers of the Weird, which was our first in the Disney Kingdoms line. And then we've just kind of been steamrolling with this idea.
So, you know, and then once Seekers of the Weird actually hit a couple of years ago, it's been nonstop. We just keep going, which is great.
When we did the initial pitch, we had a lot of different, we kind of went through our list of all the different attractions at Disney parks. Ones that were primarily original stories that originated at the parks, things like Haunted Mansion, things like Journey into Imagination, Big Thunder Mountain. Those were the ones we really gravitated towards because we felt like those were great opportunities for us to dive deeper into those stories. Essentially, the high-level pitch was we wanted to do for comics what the Pirates of the Caribbean films did for Pirates of the Caribbean, the attraction, which is allows you to explore new characters, go into new worlds, tell new stories. So that was really our goal. Except it's a lot cheaper to make a comic book than it is.
My next question was going to be why comics, but apparently.
Well, no, it's cheaper. That's a good one. That helps sell the idea. But really, we're all comic book nerds, and we love comic books. It's a great medium for telling stories.
Well, how many of you guys would love to see Disney Kingdom movies? Wouldn't that be cool?
Amy, as you kind of said at the beginning, you were amazed at how many books that we've been able to get out. We're amazed at that too, and that's the other reason for comic books is we can tell a lot of stories quickly, and we can say, hey, wouldn't it be fun to look at the Enchanted Tiki Room? Well, guess what? A couple months later, you're gonna be able to hold it in your hands, and that speed of being able to tell that story is super cool for us.
Yeah, and in the Imagineering realm, we start talking about something, and you might see it in a theme park like 5 years later. With Disney Kingdom comic books, we'll have a conversation with Marvel, and in less than a year, the comic books hitting the shelves, we're like, wow, that's amazing.
And you guys can back me up or not, but I'm pretty sure there's a tremendous amount of crossover in the styles of fandom between comic books and Disney. Yeah?
That was a big part of the goal too. Is, we wanted to introduce a lot of these stories that we knew in the theme park world or that Disney fans knew really well, and bring those to the comic book fans, and vice versa. Get comic book fans to go out to the parks and learn more about these stories that Disney fans know really well. So we felt like it was a fun marriage.
I'd love to see like lore offs between the different segments of comic book and Disney people, because I'm consistently astounded by the depths of that. I'm still learning the Disney side of it. What are we looking at here on the side there?
So really quick, the slide we have up here is the Seekers of the Weird #1. Just so you know, Seekers of the Weird is actually based on Museum of the Weird, which is a concept that never got built. The reason why it's Seekers of the Weird is we couldn't call the comic book Museum of the Weird. We're actually blocked because there is a real Museum of the Weird in Texas, and we couldn't call it. We can't make inside the book, we just couldn't put it on a shelf inside. So it's called Seekers of the Weird. The variant, though, that's up there was Brian Crosby's variant on this, and I put that in there because I also wanted to show you what it looked like before I went to the Fullberry, which was that version of it. It was really cool.
Cool. Yeah, texture background.
But I mean, this was so early on. I mean, we were still like, doing the whole, are we really doing a comic book that big?
It's also classic Disney evil green.
That's right.
That's right, yeah. A little purple in there.
And next up, comic that was close to a lot of people's hearts, and we only have Jim for part of today's panel, so I'm just going to hand it to you and take it away. Can you tell us a little bit about Figment?
Absolutely. So yeah, midway through the panel, I'm just going to cartwheel out. I got another appointment. I'm really sorry. So the Figment comic book came about. Bill Roseman, he's the editor, he was the editor of Special Projects at Marvel. He's moved on to head up Marvel Games now. But at the time, he contacted me out of the blue, and he didn't know that much about the Disney lore, but he was the editor that was sort of organizing the artists and writers potentially pitching on these books. So he reached out to me because I've done quite a bit of sword and sorcery writing, and he was like, okay, there's a dragon? Okay, I'll contact a fantasy writer. So he contacted me, and luckily, my background's actually in animation. So I'm a huge Disney fan, and I actually teach an animation history post-secondary course at the university level. And I'm also a comic writer. So it was a really, really good fit, whether or not he realized it. So I dug deep into a lot of the Imagineering lore and tried to really find the origins of the Dreamfinder and Figment, and take the heart of Journey into Imagination and build a story around it. And so, the original attraction has a lot of sensory information, it has some beautiful visuals and symbolism and all that kind of stuff, but there isn't necessarily a central conflict. And so we had to sort of build a narrative. And it was really intimidating at first. I was so nervous about pitching to the Imagineering team because we had to create Disney lore. We had to build on what was already there and come up with a villain. We had to come up with, what was at stake and what the origins of Dreamfinder, essentially. Take this beloved character from, generations of Disney fans and add to what was there. Give him a real name. Explain where he came from and what he wants and how he becomes the Dreamfinder. And I was intimidated, and then we had this great process, and we started working away on it. And what I didn't anticipate, I knew that there were Disney fans. I knew you guys were all out there. But I didn't realize the love, particularly, that people still had for the original Journey into Imagination, and the Dreamfinder in particular. And I was sort of thankful that we were wrapping up internally the miniseries as the series was announced, because I got absolutely inundated online with messages and excited, requests and Disney fans that were coming out of the woodwork and telling me how much this character means to them and how wonderful it was to see Disney reinvesting in the Dreamfinder. And in many ways, the pressure was sort of off. The book was already approved, we were in production, and I thought, well, I hope they like it. And I was away on a trip when the first issue came out, and Bill Roseman called me and he said, it's all sold out. And I said, no, it just came out today. He goes, yeah, it's sold out. You guys attacked the comic book stores. You guys just mauled the first printing in no time whatsoever. They announced a second printing that day, and then 2 weeks later they announced a third printing, because before they finished shipping out the second printing, they were already allocated at all the stores. The love for Dreamfinder and Figment blew away, I think, the Disney gang and Marvel, and we were all really, really taken aback at the beautiful feedback we got from people. I feel very fortunate, to be a part of it. I got to go to D23 last year, and I got to sign with Tony Baxter, and we talked about Dreamfinder and met a lot of you there. It was just stunning, and so I feel so fortunate to Bill and to the gang for being so supportive of sort of this idea, of imagination and innovation at the heart of it, and being able to take that and propel it forward. David Gabriel, who's the Coalition VP at Marvel, he's a big fan of the series, and he's been championing it all the way up the ladder. And so, very soon after the collection came out, we were able to announce a Figment 2 that we put together, the Legacy of it. You guys have had a chance to read it. I hope you really enjoyed it. Ramon Bach, the artist, is stellar, and we had just another incredible run, building and expanding on the mythology of Figment and the Dreamfinder, bringing them into the modern day and incorporating, the imagination pavilion and all that kind of stuff. I'll tell you guys a couple really quick little anecdotes that mean a lot to me. So the first one is, I hadn't been to Florida or Disney World since I was 12 years old, but I had photos of myself in front of Journey to Imagination. And so this year I finally got back down to the park just like a month ago, and we went to Journey to Imagination, went on the ride, and I walked into the gift shop, and there's a display there now for the books with my name on it, and it just honestly tingles, when I look at it there. We got a couple photos, and my wife was like, tell the people, that you did this. I'm like, how do you do that? Just randomly tell people in the gift shop, hey, that's me, So I just know it all. I'm going to buy a couple pins, and we'll just go. That's good enough. And we were waiting in line, and this woman behind us had all of them. She was buying all of them in a big stack, and it was just like a heat was coming up on the back of my neck because I just kept looking over, and I thought, oh, I really want to say something. Is that awkward? Is that weird? And finally, it just sort of, yeah. No, it's not. So I just sort of looked back, and I said, I don't mean to bother you. I tell you a little secret. And she just looked at me, and I said, I wrote those. And she goes, what? I said, that's my name. I work for Marvel and Disney. I wrote the Figment comic. And she just stared, and it's like it caught up with her, and she goes, what? Like this, right? And so then, will you sign them? I'm like, yeah, I know I have a Sharpie on my wife, reaches into her purse. She always has it. He'll sign them. So we go through the checkout, and the Disney employee's about to put them in the bag, and she goes, no, and she puts them on the counter, and I start signing them, and I can see the woman's like, oh no, he's going to deface the book, like she didn't know what I was doing, and I signed them all and handed them over, and then the people at the cash register were like, oh, caught on, and then we just left really quickly because I felt like a big dork. It was wonderful. I mean, it was really, really incredible.
And then he walked out the door and he met the big Jim Zub costume character.
That's right.
Not the kids.
Dancing and singing the imagination song. No, the next day I signed at Coliseum of Comics in Orlando, and it was an awesome story. It was fantastic. We had a great time. And Ron Schneider, one of the original actors who played Dreamfinder, came to visit and just walked into the store and introduced himself. And then I brought him around the table, and he started signing for people as well. And people get all verklempt and crazy, and it's just amazing when I think of the impact that these things have on people's lives, and to be a small part of it. You guys are the best. So that's my rambling, this poor person trying to keep up with the sign language. Anyways, that's my little rambling story. Thank you for supporting Figment. Thank you for reading and loving the books, and you guys inspire me so much.
Out there are now some in Marvel canon itself, I think.
So yeah, this is from, so I write the Thunderbolts series for Marvel, which if you guys don't read Marvel superheroes, you really should. And Thunderbolts is led by the Winter Soldier, Bucky Barnes, and he's looking after this little girl who has cosmic power named Kovic. And so there was a scene that we were writing in latest issue that just came out on Wednesday, and she's supposed to be reading a storybook. And so I wrote into the script and I said, hey, it could be Figment, ha ha ha, you know. And then the artist did it, and we got permission and put it in there. And I was like, this is the most indulgent thing. I just wrote in one of my scripts that one of the characters is reading one of my other books. This is so nerdy. And Marvel and Disney let it happen. And now I know that in the Marvel universe there are Figment books. And that two of the coolest Marvel characters I can think of like them. So that's pretty awesome. Yeah.
It's so nice to think that Bucky has the next time something really terrible happens to him, he can just remember that nice book he read about overcoming fear and imagination. And I like that I get to take that knowledge with me.
I think they'll slip it into the movie and watch Jim's head explode.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. In the next Captain America movie, he'll just sit
Cap
there
is my
and
baby.
fighting guys off, and he's like, this is pretty good.
I think we have another thing coming up.
Well, okay, not in the slide. Oh wait, you're right. I I'm like, wait a minute, what did it? Yeah, showing some of our fans we got out there of Disney Kingdom. So this was taken where we were.
They sent me this on the week of release. I was really touched by it. It's so awesome.
So,
We have nothing to do all day.
the fact that Figment is just sitting at work with us is pretty awesome. And then Jim, before you leave,
Yes.
not trying to push you out the door, but just wanted to bring up the fact that you had a conversation with Marvel this week while you were
Yeah.
here.
So I mean, I wouldn't want to say anything publicly, but
Thank God.
yeah, now that we're having this private conversation up here, I thought it might be nice to mention that Marvel's really, really happy with the Disney Kingdom line, and they're particularly happy with the way Figment has been going. And so the most common question I get asked from Disney fans is, will there be a third one?
Will there be a third one?
Oh, that's a really good question. So what I would like to say is, well, I should go. So, but let's just say, I think you guys are going to be really happy next year. So, as I said,
And we actually didn't get a chance. I don't know, Chad, if you want to comment at all about the development of Figment and the original attraction.
Chad, give us some anecdotes about working on Imagination.
I started in Disney Features and then actually did some educational films, and that's when they were doing Epcot. They said, hey, you could fit over here. So my first assignment was the Transportation Pavilion, Wheels of Motion or whatever. So for 9 months I was in an 8x12 room with Ward Kimball. If you know your Disney lore, that's one of the 9 old men, the one man that Ward was fond of quoting that Walt Disney called a genius. And that was amazing. And then after that, I was briefly on a space pavilion, got to meet George Lucas. You'll notice there's no space pavilion in Epcot, so I moved on to work with Tony Baxter and Barry Braverman. And the three of us headed up the team on the Imagination Pavilion. Figment, the original design, and actually pretty much how he is, was designed by Andy Gaskell, who had started in the animation program just like a year before I did, and fantastic animator and art director on several Disney features and Sony features. And originally, Figment was not purple. He was kind of a blue-green color, but the Sherman brothers wanted alliteration. So without our permission, they called him, the song had purple pigment in it. And I said, I can't, blue-green, it still stands, but they changed that. For an afternoon, the Dreamfinder was called The Pretender. So we all looked at Tony as if he was crazy, and he went back to Dreamfinder. But from day one, the Imagination Pavilion was, we felt, the most Disney ride in all of Epcot, because they were so paranoid about making the park something different, very futuristic and all that, and here in the middle of it was this this tribute to the imagination that was full of all sorts of fanciful images and all of that. And I left to go back to the studio just as we had sold it to Kodak. And then they went through a second design thing, which kind of design-wise brought a little more into the rest of the park. But Figment was such a strong character in Big Thunder too that they definitely stayed. They were always the heart of the production. And the original ride, if you guys went on it in its early forms, ended with a puppet of Figment at the end and various film screens, which we did on the soundstage, where I realized I don't learn stupid trivia than they thought. The soundstage where they had done the underwater tank of 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, and we had a Figment puppet, a lot of blue screens, and people waving colored, chrome strips in the air to make it look like he's underwater, and bubble machines, and it was just like one of those, how did I get here? And other than that, other than noise cracks, I'm not sure I have too much more to contribute.
How many of you folks got to experience the original Imagination ride?
And actually what was very nice, because originally Mickey was not allowed in Epcot. He wasn't going to be allowed in Epcot, because again, they had this paranoia about making something different. So all the companies who were sponsors, I'm retired now, so I can say all this good. All the sponsors had to go through this whole thing, because they all wanted Mickey Mouse next to their truck, or macaroni and cheese, or whatever. No, Mickey is this and that. That's when the switch in management happened at Disney with Michael Eisner and those guys who said, why isn't Mickey Mouse in the park? Mickey Mouse is the most iconic figure in the world. Why is he not in this park? And they tried giving the same spiel, and I think he just gave them a blank look, and then suddenly Mickey was in a spacesuit, and he was in Epcot, and they had to go back to the sponsors to explain how great it was to have Mickey in it, which was an easy sell, obviously. And it really brought it into the Disney family, which, when you have a brand, and brand sounds very cold and calculating, but what Disney means, to so many people, to try to ignore that just to have something else, it's like, no, embrace it. It's one of the strongest things, in the world, and it's about not doing the same thing over and over. It's about doing new things that have the tradition and the heart that, started with the mouse.
So, next up on the list, who wants to give the brief? I love Cinnamon a lot.
Sure. So we started with Museum of the Weird, then went into Figment.
Seekers of the Weird.
We saw those rascally seekers, and then we jumped into Figment. Then we were looking for something new, something different, and we love Big Thunder Mountain Railroad. We're fans of westerns. I guess we had that, I guess, in common with the generation before us that built Disneyland, and so we were like, wouldn't it be fun to do a western? And so then we jumped into Big Thunder Mountain Railroad. And because there's always been this underlying supernatural element to the attraction of the spirit of Big Thunder, but it's never been explained, it's never been gone into in any depth, and so we're like, what happens with the spirit of Big Thunder? Let's look at that more. And so we got a chance to do that with this one. And again, if you look at the drawing all the way on the right, it's another Brian Crosby variant original. So very nice. And that was actually cut up into... I have it on my wall.
Well, we didn't put the number 1 on here. I actually chose number 4 because when this one came out, all of us were like, "Oh, that's so cool!" So that's just kind of a personal favorite, is the number 4.
Yeah. But the Brian Crosby one was kind of the great overall. We actually had a little fun with that one, where we cut it into 4 sections, and we posted 2 of the pieces at Disneyland in Anaheim and Frontierland, and posted the other 2 pieces around the attraction at Walt Disney World. And then we let the fans go take photos and kind of piece them together. And so that was a little fun that we had with announcing this particular book. What's going on at Big Thunder? And it was fun to get approvals to post one thing in the park for one day, but we did it, so that was fun for the Disney Kingdoms fan to kind of do like a little mini scavenger hunt, but then to combine both coasts and do it that way. So that was
Trying to explain that to theme park, ops management.
right. What is it here? What's it for? How long's it going to be
For a
here?
comic book?
Yeah.
It's gonna be cool. I don't know.
Do we have to issue a press release? It's one day, guys. It's gonna be fun.
We actually released that. We never released it complete like that. I think that was an image that showed up online. We released them as the individual quadrants, which kind of exposed a lot of little Easter eggs that I had hidden in there, just because that's what artists do.
Because nerds.
But if you pull the first 4 issues, if you get the variants, you can put them together and create the entire.
But even you were saying you didn't like seeing them separated out, right?
Yeah. I mean, if any of you are artists out here, and sometimes you give certain things emphasis in a drawing, and other things get de-emphasized because it's going to be further away from the reader or the viewer, and then seeing some of those elements really made large and into a giant poster. It's like, oh, that's supposed to be like in the background. Nobody's supposed to see that part. Too bad. That's all right. Nobody sent the cake. It's all good. You know what I'm talking about. Not about paying.
Yeah, I've also not received payment.
That's good.
Again,
We have another one of these life imitating art moments. So in the Big Thunder storyline, one of the things that the writer picked up on was an image that was put into the queue in Florida, and that became a major character, in the comic book. So this is actually, a character that's in the likeness of Disney legend Tony Baxter. The way that character evolved throughout time, originally he had a more villainous type role, and we'd go back to Tony and say, hey, so your character is now kind of doing this, and he'd go, oh, that's not very me.
Well, it's not really you.
Yeah, it's just a comic book character. But we worked through it. Well, so this is an image from the first one. So the second one comes out, and I take issue number 2 to Tony, and we were having a dinner at this barbecue place in Anaheim, and I caught a picture of him reading issue number 2, which actually just started cracking me up, and he had no idea I was taking this picture. What? He had no idea.
You can tell he's swearing under his breath, I think. Tony always thought it was weird because he created Big Thunder. It was always strange to him because Big Thunder, and this isn't about the comic, this is about the attraction. Big Thunder, in his mind, the storyline was just that was the goal that financed Discovery Bay, which was an entire huge land that he had designed. So it was like the fact that they built the gate post and not the rest of the land was always strange to him. But the original Big Thunder was, it's a fantastic ride. Originally, the locomotive engine was going to disengage and then race you through the entire ride as if it's going to collide with you, and then at the last second, it would come together again. So I think they had to avoid the possible heart attacks there.
Well, you mentioned Discovery Bay, and this is kind of a role that we take a lot of times in this process as Imagineers, is as the writer is doing the story, the art's coming together, Marvel's handling so much of this, then we'll reply to these emails and say, maybe if you could sneak some of this in and put some of this in, or maybe take that out. That's kind of the guide rails that we put on Disney Kingdoms. But with Big Thunder, the deep backstory of Discovery Bay is founded by Jason Chandler, the character's name. Well, the writer picked up on one of the characters in Big Thunder as Chandler, and it was never said, whether that's a first name or a last name. And as we were reviewing the script on issue number 5, we replied back and said, could you have just a little reveal at the end and have that character say, that his first name is actually Jason? And they were like, why? Why is that even important? Like, it's just kind of a nerdy thing, And it's not that significant in terms of like where we're going or where we're not even going. But that's kind of the role that we play, is when we find those little opportunities, and we'll sneak them in there into the story just for continuity's sake, or to appease the fans that know those kind of things.
And then, of course, that's what we all expect from Disney, is the attention to detail and the care to put cool stuff in everywhere. Turns out there are people making all that magic.
Marvel finally came to us and was like, can we do the Haunted Mansion? And it was like a big question where like a hush came over us, and we're like, can we? Just because the Haunted Mansion it's amazing, we all love it, it has such a great loyal fan base, but it also is a property in Imagineering that has a lot of stakeholders. You know, everybody is very, very protective of the Haunted Mansion. And so we're like, this could be a can of worms. One of the things I do in Imagineering is I get to go to the legal people and get approvals. It's so fun. And so I had to go to the stakeholders around Imagineering and go, do you mind if we do this with the Haunted Mansion? And it turns out all of that trepidation was completely baseless because everyone was like, yeah, sure, have fun, have a blast with it. So we were like, great. So we went back to Marvel, we're like, good news, Haunted Mansion's a go, let's have a blast. And it was awesome because we knew how excited the fans would be, but we also knew what a responsibility it would be because of the passion around this attraction. It's a passion we all share. It's a passion that the Marvel folks share, but then we of course know the fans share too.
Hey, I have a question. When you say stakeholders, is that a thing, or is that you're just referring to people?
That's just what I'm referring. I'm referring to the amount of different people at Imagineering, whether it be legal, whether it be franchise, whether it be creative directors, who all kind of have their hand in the Haunted Mansion world.
Okay.
And I have to get them all to be okay with what we're doing.
All right. Because at Disney, every once in a while, they'll have a committee, they'll have the brand committee.
Yeah, sorry,
Suddenly,
yeah. So
you
not
bring-
the
and I get
actual
yours.
shareholders of the
Okay.
company or anything. No, just the people at Imagineering who all have to kind of approve certain things.
Well,
And
and,
Mansion is a lot of it.
well, and we do have to keep things a little bit safe along that way. I mean, yeah, we can let them leash out a little bit, but there does get to be a point where sometimes we'll have to respond and say, yeah, we actually can't do that, or there's a lot of fan fiction, I guess is the way to put it, or theories out there about a big attraction like the Haunted Mansion. And at times, the writer will want to throw in bits and pieces of that that's out there. We will have to go, oh, actually, that's not official Disney. That's within the fan realm. We need to not, use that name.
Yeah, exactly. Because the Haunted Mansion has taken on a life or an afterlife of its own. There's so much story out there and names. And true story, 2 weeks ago, I worked closely with Disney Interactive. They came to me with a design for a character based on the Haunted Mansion, and it had a name I had never heard. And I was like, where did you get that name? And they were like, oh yeah, it's online. I'm like, yeah, well, if it's online, it must be true. And I took it back to our story team at WGI. Has anybody heard this name? No one in Imagineering had ever heard of it. Someone somewhere named the guy in the stretch portrait, and it somehow took on a life of its own and ended up in Disney. And so we had to fortunately we caught it before it was too late, but we're like, it's not official. So anyway, things like that always happen, especially with the Haunted Mansion.
It's really quick. If you're showing, every now and then Marvel does like to do variants. This one they knew would be really popular. Number one ended up having 7 different variants.
They're called Shared Comics variants are the alternate covers that you may find. It's a way to sort of celebrate big exciting releases and also create that collecting frenzy that we all share.
More Brian Crosby variant up there on the top right.
Got a Young, we've got a Jody Daly down in the lower right-hand corner there. The action figure variants shown up on a lot of things, and they're starting to become a thing that we've latched onto. But let's give Eric a little time here to talk about some covers.
Look at these beautiful covers! Who's responsible for these?
So when I was first contacted to do covers for the Haunted Mansion, first I was really nervous and excited because it's easily my favorite attraction at the park. And I've gone since I was a little kid. I'm from Southern California. I've been going since probably before I could walk. And I've always loved the Haunted Mansion. When they came to me, the first thing that they pitched was that they wanted to do basically a tour of the ride. And so each of the covers, if you look at each of the covers, it basically takes you step by step through the attraction. So they wanted to start off with the line queue, the exterior of the house, while you're waiting to get in the mansion, while you're waiting to get in. And each one of these that I did, they're drawn, they're actually rendered in graphite. If there's anyone out there that's actually interested in the technical side of things. And then I color them with overlays in Photoshop. So there are actually physical, hand-drawn versions of these out there somewhere that a collector bought actually all of them from me in one fell swoop. So that was a lot of fun to work on each of those. And like the guy said, hiding, in my case, not necessarily Easter eggs, but just little details from the park that you learn just from having gone on it, 1,000 times. I go, even now, I go at least 2 or 3 times a year, and I ride the ride every single time I go. So a lot of that stuff was involved, and there were certain things that the guys wanted in the covers, but then beyond that, they gave me quite a bit of freedom as well to kind of tell the story the way that I wanted to tell it. So that was pretty much my side of it. Other than, in contrast to what Jim said, when he was done with his part of it by the time this series got announced, I had gotten contacted fairly late in the game, and I did the first 2 covers back to back very quickly, and I think by the time I'd even done the 3rd cover, the first one was announced in media, and I was already nervous, and then I got really, really nervous, because as a fan of the series, I knew what it meant to me, and I didn't know that there was that huge of a fan base for it as well, and how excited people got just got me incredibly nervous, on top of my own fears of inadequacy. So,
On top of that prank calls from Eddie Murphy.
yeah.
I don't even know how he got his number.
We won't even talk about that. But I enjoyed doing the covers, and it was basically, as an illustrator, you go through your entire career getting maybe 2 or 3 dream projects, and this was one of them for me. So that was pretty much.
In the situation where you were being brought on board, Marvel had actually sent us a few different links to possible artists for Haunted Mansion, and before we even knew you, we were looking at all these different versions and going back and forth on email and talk about who could do this, who could do that, and yes, we won out because we just felt like that was the right style. You were doing the right thing for what we wanted to see on Haunted Mansion.
I'll admit I was a little bit surprised, because while I am known for doing horror work, and Haunted Mansion certainly is horror work, it is Disney, and for lack of a better term, it's kidified? Family friendly? Whatever term you want to use.
Hanging at the beginning.
Well, yeah. I mean, the story certainly is dark, but the look that they wanted, has that stylization to it, and I was known more for doing, I wouldn't say photorealistic, but like I'd done Aliens vs. Predator covers and The Strain and things like that. The more mainstream comic stuff I'd done was like Deathstroke, not exactly family friendly fare. But I was beside myself with joy that they asked me, but I was actually a little bit surprised when they did.
It didn't hurt that your name seemed like it could fit on a Haunted Mansion tombstone.
How many lines have you made?
Did you all know that
You
we
guys
had this
tried.
love for the attraction or was this like a super happy coincidence? We were like, that's the guy.
Coincidence.
I would say happy coincidence, but it seems like everybody we talked to was like, oh yeah, I love the mansion, I've been on that 1 billion times, I'm okay.
Yeah, I don't think I'm alone in loving that ride. So.
Have you had any particularly cool experiences? Like, have you had a chance to meet folks now that the comics are out in the world?
As far as fans of the series?
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, in fact I did, my local comic shop, I did a free comic book day there, and I did quite a few sketches of characters from the attraction and things of that sort for people. So yeah, that was a lot of fun. But also just once it was coming out, I also teach at a school, and a lot of the students there are big fans. I mean, I'm from Southern California, so like you said, it's not like there's a shortage of people out there that are fans of the park and Haunted Mansion in general. So. But yeah, absolutely. It's certainly beyond my love for the ride. I can't say that it's hurt my exposure in my career either. So hopefully it's been a win-win for everybody because it's been a win for me. So.
Well, it's added a really beautiful piece to the existing lore of this attraction.
A couple of things. I mean, we knew that Mansion would be big once that was the decision, and even Marvel was hoping that was the case. Pre-sales were bigger than anything that they had on any of the previous Disney Kingdoms titles. And yeah, we told you Mansion's going to be huge. And it's continued. to sell out. So we were told this week that issue number 1 has gone back to a 3rd printing now. 2, 3, and 4 are going to 2nd printing, and 5 is about to come out. I don't know the exact date. It's going to be very soon. And so it continues to sell extremely well, and then we're already working on the hardcover. All of these go to hardcover, and then we have library book editions of some of the titles that have been going out, and the library editions are already being worked on for Haunted Mansion as well. So really, really, really.
Because my store is completely sold out of Haunted Mansion 1, so I'm the most excited person here about the fact that I'm going to finally have
The
more.
second most excited.
Well, and then
We're going to put all the #1 fans in a room and watch them fight.
One other thing to add about the Haunted Mansion is that it's become so popular, and it's a perfect thing for October. So in October around Halloween, Comic Shops will be giving out issue number 1.
There's a spring event called Free Comic Book Day that comic book stores can participate in. I'm seeing now it's the free comic book day. Where you can order special editions of certain comics and sort of go by and make a big celebration out of it. And now there is a fall version called Halloween Comic Fest, which is, I'm guessing, what you're talking about, where you can go by your shop to celebrate or pick up some to hand out as a set of candy at your house, and just more ways to celebrate good stuff that's out in the house.
We'll get a free Haunted Mansion in October.
Yeah.
Also, for those of you that are completists, beyond the variant covers of #1, each of the printings have had a slight color variation on them as well. So they are a little bit different. It's not just the same cover if you're one of those people that has to collect them all.
I was going to make a joke about that. Of course Disney would do that. Hey, I wanted to say something real quick. What these guys have managed to do, because Eric mentioned something about, family entertainment or Kidified or something like that. And what the Disney tradition has been, when done right, is family entertainment includes the adults, includes the parents.
Yeah.
It's movies and entertainment that the whole family can watch, and it is not dumbed down. And I think that's what these guys have done in these titles, and frankly is why they're so popular. Because I just don't think they would have legs if they were done how, some Disney stuff was done maybe in late 70s or something like that, where they didn't take that care. I think these things are outstanding, and these guys have got it. So,
Yeah.
it's awesome.
For being a family-friendly look, we're proud of the amount of decapitations it includes.
I did have fans ranging all the way from 5 years old up to about 60 years old at Free Comic Book Day when people came in, so it hit the right note, I guess.
All right, in our last few minutes,
Yes, so what's next?
we'll do the what's next. So what's next is... So this has been announced, but the covers there, the center one is the main cover for #1 by Brian Kessinger. And the variant that you see on the left actually is going to play out over all 5 issues as connecting covers. And then we also have that variant in there on the right, sneaking in an orange bird, because there's a... This one's been a little bit different, only because, going from Haunted Mansion, the light particularly.
It's the obvious next step.
So, but with this one thing that Marvel really wanted was talking animals. There's a big backstory to that, but they really wanted talking animals. I was like, well, we do have some talking animals in the theme park, so response has obviously been good already. It doesn't hit comic book stores until October. But the story has been kind of a fun one to try and figure out amongst all of us that are involved. Because you go, well, what's the story of the tiki whip? You go in, the birds and the flowers sing to you, and then you're happy and you leave and go get a Dole Whip or something. So
And all of that will happen in the comic book.
It will.
Spoilers. That's a couple. 5 issues for that.
Scratch and sniff, that's a great idea. There's a group of characters in each each issue is going to be about a different group of people or a different character and how they come in contact with the Enchanted Tiki Room and how that affects them. And then ultimately bringing all this together into one big story.
There's just an early pencil of the overall island. We haven't seen colors on this yet because we're actually still in process of making changes to what you're seeing here. Some of our notes back and forth, and some of these slightly different what you see. And then our last is, this was the first piece that Brian Kessinger sent in for issue number 1. And we're like, oh, that's beautiful, can't wait to frame that and put it somewhere. But there was a need for it to be a little bit more playful, which is why you saw the previous one. But we were able to get this one worked in as, I believe it's going to be issue number 3.
That piece, I think, was the one that really convinced us that this was going to work. We really felt like it hit a great time.
I have a big question about Tiki Room. How do you plan to get the song out of our heads?
We're not.
By singing It's a Small World.
Hey, I have one more piece of self-serving trivia in that I sang on the Small, Small World album put up by Disneyland Records. They renamed our choir the Disneyland Boys Choir as opposed to St. Charles Boys Choir, which is in North Hollywood. But,
Yeah, what did you sound like?
like this, but way higher. And we were told that Walt liked our version better than the one in the ride. It's like, yeah, that's what you would say with the time.
I think that's probably all the time that we have for today. Do we have time for 1 or 2 questions?
And 1 minute.
One question. Anybody got a question? Excellent.
Can the people who help make the Haunted Mansion comics sign my comics?
We didn't know there was 20 of them.
Thank you all so much for coming out today. Thank you.
Are you going to Alien Encounter?
Yes. Excited. So you actually want to
I know Alien Encounter very well.
sound stages because they would use the storage of you know, it's like it was already kind of formed before I
When we got them, I just started reading it right away. Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Oh, thanks for coming to see us.
Yeah, thanks. Thank you.
Cat sipping. Just Amy.